There's something incredibly fascinating happening right now. You might not believe it. Between the Arab Spring, Anna Hazare's movement in Delhi, and Trump's election in the United States, there's a common thread which is woven through. Essentially, what we are seeing is that there is a cohort of the population which used to not be as active civically or politically taking the center stage. What we're also seeing is that people who are disgruntled with the system have decided to take it upon themselves to nation build, to strengthen governance. And what we see directly is that the population has decided to participate through the process of protests, through the process of even running for office. I'm the founder of an organization called Swaniti Initiative. What we do is we work with members of parliaments on constituency development. Essentially, what that means is that we have young professionals come in and we have them work with parliamentarians on delivering public services in communities at large. What we've seen when we started in 2012, there's a very interesting facet. We had a website up, which was fairly meager. We posted about 4 openings for parliamentarians. We were trying to build a core team of about 10 people. And we sent out the open invitation to everyone to apply. My thinking was really, who's going to apply? How many people really want to work with parliamentarians? What I saw was over 100 applicants had come in for a meager position of 10. And the number of applications has increased only since then for the core team. What this indicates towards is that there is a passionate drive amongst young people to bring change. Because even amongst these 100 applicants, what we saw were people from the best universities were applying, people with substantive work experience were applying, IIT, IIM alumni, people who would work for prestigious firms. They could do anything that they wanted, and yet they choose to pursue public service. So what we're essentially seeing is that young professionals, that there is this cohort of young people who want to bring change and that they're doing it. But the interesting thing within this is that why are they doing this? What is going on? What is the larger trend? And so I've been trying to follow this for the last 4 years and trying to engage with people and see what really is going on in the community. I had a colleague who explained this to me really well. We're working in Odisha, and in one of the backward districts of Odisha. So he went there to visit, and he worked there for about 6 months. And so I asked him, how was your experience? What did you see? Over the course of 6 months, he said, the first time I went there, I essentially noticed that the community didn't have any roads, schools weren't really functioning, and basic programs like pension wasn't really available or being provided to people who really needed them. What he did essentially was work with the district magistrate, work with the state government officials, and then work with the MPs team to activate the systems. And these are very little things that really happened. So what happened, for example, in the case of roads, all he needed to do was go ahead and make sure that the paperwork for the roads was provided to the state government, that it was processed, that it was followed through, and that the fund disbursement happened on time. In the case of schools, where there were no benches, chairs, desks, what he did was essentially help set up a school management committee that would then go to the DM and ask them, why is this not happening? Push for more funding. And in the case of pensions, it was very, very small. It was literally the fact that the beneficiary list was not being updated and followed up as much as it should do. Within the scope of 6 months, the project impacted over 50,000 people. That's just activating systems, that's just pushing things through. And when he came back, his argument was, I can see firsthand the impact we can create. That you have essentially a cohort of people who are taking it upon themselves to go in and to change and to fix and to improve the systems. So my question is, well, this is great, but why would you want to do this? I still, I'm trying to grapple around. And I reached out to a classmate of mine. We graduated from graduate school in the same year. This guy had like a great job, this guy had a resume I wished I had. And he had a 6-digit plum job offer which had come his way. And so I had asked him, why are you leaving all of this and going back to your home state and wanting to enter into political life, wanting to enter a party system? And so what was fascinating about him was that he said, what I do, that six-figure salary helps me and my family. It doesn't really help my community. It doesn't really help my state, not my country. So what's really the point if I can only, impact poor people? Why not change the whole system? Why not renew, refresh? So essentially what we see is consistently this passion amongst a younger generation to want to build and to fix systems. But let's just make one thing clear. This is not the first time that this is happening. In fact, this has happened twice before. Once this has happened during the independence movement. Essentially, during the independence movement, we had some of the brightest minds come together in India to build what we see as India today. We had Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Jawaharlal Nehru, Mahatma Gandhi, who could have had lucrative careers, worked at prestigious firms, and decided to do what they did, but they decided to come back and they decided to work towards public service, towards public leadership. That helped us develop a framework which we continue to build on today. And the second time that this happened was, in fact, during emergency. And during emergency, what we saw was that we had protectors of the democratic institution. Our democracy was threatened. A young cohort of leaders came up who have now gone on to become chief ministers. And they've gone on to join the cabinet. And what's fascinating is this is not just anecdote. If you look at the parliaments which followed after those movements, you will notice that we had the youngest parliaments after that, which is saying something, which is talking about the arrival of the flesh blood into politics, public leadership, public service. And what I strongly believe is that we're on the third wave of that right now. But let's just make sure of one thing, that, it's not public service and politics is not that easy. There is a reason people have been steering away from it for the past several generations. And the first reason, there are a few reasons for that. The first among them being the stigma, government, political service. Really, those are not really happy words. But the thing is that that's changing, right? Essentially, what you see right now is the fact that you do have the best and the brightest coming in and wanting to join into public service. And that stigma is slowly but surely going away. The second thing is that when you look at the governance system at large, if you look at political parties, if you look at what happens once you enter them, there's a lot of nebulousness which surrounds it. Once you come in and you join a party, you don't know how you rise within it. You don't know what public leadership looks like. You don't really know what happens next. And that nebulousness often drives people away. And the third reason is that politics and money, there's always a little bit of a murky relationship, to say the least. How do you fund a campaign? How do you even support yourself as you're looking into public leadership? What does it mean? Financially, that's a big black hole. And finally, unlike, let's say, engineering or medicine or any other, or even a private sector job, there's usually a defined career path. I know I need to go this way in order to proceed that career. In public service, in politics, that doesn't exist. There is no defined career path. There is no clarity of the sort. But I think we're still trudging through. We're still going ahead and moving forward. And the reason, to a great extent, that is happening is not just because of the push from young professionals, but because the governance systems themselves are changing. So what's changing within the governance systems? A few months ago, we had a few parliamentarians come up to us. And what they said was, we're looking to build a program where we can have young talent come in and work with us at the constituency level. We brainstormed with them, we bounced off ideas, and we decided that a program where you had young professionals with certain amount of work experience come in and work with them would be something which would be valuable to both ends. It was amazing to see the enthusiasm which existed. It was amazing to see how many of them came forward. In fact, we have 50 parliamentarians who openly expressed willingness to want to be a part of this program, to want to mentor, support, and bring in talent. Now, what that speaks about is a larger trend which is happening. Parliamentarians are one piece of the puzzle. If you look at state governments, of Maharashtra, of Delhi, of Andhra Pradesh, of Tamil Nadu, each of them increasingly are bringing in a program to now push in talent, to bring in that young blood. The culture of governance is changing. And what's fascinating within this is that as young people go into these programs, they also have the opportunity to see what is happening. What does it mean to be an MP? What does it mean to be a chief minister? How do you run an office? Because for the next generation, we are essentially preparing them to take on a public leadership role. Now they go in better prepared. So what we're seeing essentially is that there is clearly a demand side which exists, that the government is clearly wanting to bring in fresh talent. And you clearly see a supply side of an argument where you see young professionals wanting to come in and to bring in this change. And you see that as you connect both of these places, that there is clearly a third wave coming of fresh new leaders who are wanting to build and nation build and build a stronger and more confident and more successful India. So if you're a young person and you have that fire in your heart and you have that spark and you really want to do something, but you're nervous because you're not quite sure what the governance and the policy space looks like, I have good news for you. There's hope. The tides are shifting. Thank you.